So we're going to share today the number one thing parents get wrong with recruiting and why it could be costing their kids offers. And no, it's not something that is out of your control. It's something you can totally change. So don't worry. Let's get going. Welcome to Signed and Ready, the podcast for college-bound softball players and the people who support them. I'm Mel Rushing, here with my Metal Sweet Spot co-founder, Alicia Smith. Together, we're giving you the edge coaches actually recruit. Mental toughness, confidence, and resilience under pressure. Because exposure gets you seen, but leadership gets you signed. Let's make it happen. The main thing I want to talk about today is parents and our role in this recruiting process. So, Alicia, I'm going to tap into you two different ways today because you've got a kid who's a junior in high school, not looking at it from the sports perspective, but it's still all about getting to the right college, right? So, talk to me about supporting her. What has that looked like for you? And then we'll talk about what you've seen from the high school coach side. So, talk about how you feel like you're supporting her in this process.
That's a really good question because it's often I'm in a unique situation because I'm a coach and a mom at the same time. So at times it's hard for me to separate that in my brain. And from the perspective of being a mom, you're still kind of a coach, right? Like not necessarily a sport coach, but you're still trying to uh, push your kids, right? And help them become the best version of themselves. That's what I believe all mothers want for their kids, right? Coaches do too. So sometimes for me though, that might look like too much of a coach, not enough mom. And if anyone out there could tell me where that line is, that would be great because I'm not always sure. And I can only imagine that regardless if you're a coach or not, I think sometimes sometimes you probably have that question yourself of where's that line for you. So I want to push her without wanting her to, so I'm not pushing her so much where she wants to quit, right? Or not pushing her enough to where she
Hmm.
just says, it's okay. That's a really hard balance sometimes. So those are the things I struggle with. But for me, I have to kind of reevaluate what does support look like. But I also think it's asking her, what kind of support do you need?
Good one. And we we actually just talked about this off camera. That's the tough thing, right? Because
Right.
we know all these things from coaching all these years, and we've got to figure it out. And then we're like, oh, we probably should have asked. But that's definitely something I see even from like the college coach perspective when either kids come on campus or I'm talking to a kid at a ballpark, like watching the parents almost like manage their own leadership in the moment. Like this is where I think that balance gets really tough. Like, what if you're standing there watching your kid flounder? Like,
Yeah.
what if you're like, no, you're ruining it because you're just stressed. You got this. Like, what are some of the things you see in that, like towing that line that parents can almost go like too far with your girls at the high school level specifically?
Yeah. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that I have been guilty of this myself, right? Because you want so desperately, right, for them to be successful. And sometimes our view as a parent can be different, um, or think differently of what it looks like, right? What does success look like to you is probably different than what maybe the college coach is looking at, or I as a high school coach would look at, because I know when I talk to my players over time, developing them and having conversations with them, that there's an impact there, right? They hear everything that I'm saying. I also know that my kid doesn't. It doesn't matter how much I know. It doesn't matter, how much I think I know, or what experience I have. That's not what she wants to hear from me all the time. So I think you can be too caught up in wanting them to look a certain way, act a certain way, perform a certain way, and you lose sight of what's really important. Again, totally guilty of that at times, and I have to really work hard to catch myself because she has to fail in order to grow. That is a fundamental belief that I believe which I would argue every coach really truly does believe that, teaches that, and I think fundamentally as parents we understand that. But it's really, really hard to have to watch them fail it's really, really hard to know that they're walking towards the edge and they're just going to jump right off and fail really badly, but they have to. And that is the part I struggle with as a mom, for sure. I don't struggle with that as a coach because I encourage failure. So I fully admit that that's part of, um, I don't want to say my issue because it's not an issue, but it's part of how I struggle with letting her go and letting her fail and trip and fall and not have to be right there to pick her up.
Because that's our job as
That's our
parents,
job as
right?
moms. Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. But I think at times it's just really hard to let it happen. So if they're in the middle of that
Mm,
conversation with a coach and they're floundering, you want so desperately to just step in and say, "Come on, I know that's not really who you are. You're just
mm,
nervous, but
hmm.
it's okay. It's part of their growth." And that's hard to watch. I get it.
Yes. Or even on the field, like seeing them crumble under the pressure. I see parents all the time, especially pitchers' parents behind the backstop just pacing because they're like, oh, I can't
Yeah.
help her right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So, and there's no getting around the fact that it will be very uncomfortable for us as parents to watch. Like it's never gonna be like, I'm chill, it's cool. Oh, she flopped on her face, it's fine. Like you're never gonna feel that way. Just like they're never gonna feel okay striking out bases loaded. It's the same thing with us as adults. It's all about the next choice, the rebound, the what we do with it, that part. So, what advice do you have to parents, whether it's from your experience as mom or coach, to A, work through it? Because sometimes these moments feel like they're lasting forever. Like, oh God, she's still failing.
Yep.
Pitchers who are stuck out there for the inning from hell, just snowball for 20 minutes out there. Like,
Yeah.
how do you help them through those moments so that they don't make the mistakes that honestly college coaches see and go,
I think you just have to really be prepared mentally when you go to the field or go to,
mm,
watch the game. And you have to really it, make it about you for that minute. Like, why am I feeling this way? If you can really question and really be honest with yourself, why are you feeling this way? Is it insecurity? Is it, whatever it may be. I'm not going to try to pretend to push like what those feelings are on other people simply because I can only talk to how I feel. And you just have to let it happen. As a parent sitting on the sideline watching soccer games, the greatest thing for me is I don't know anything really about the game, and everyone else around me does. So I get that view of what I've learned to block out as a coach on the field. I don't hear what the parents say. I've learned to block that out, but it's really hard too when you're actually sitting on the sideline with their parents who, right? Every parent on those sidelines would do it a different way, right? Would say something different, have their kid be the star, or not have their kid in this position. That I understand as a coach, and I can ignore all of that. And that is the part where I can help my daughter being able to understand maybe the coach is thinking this, or maybe the coach is thinking that. And it isn't necessarily about you on the field. So, those are some insights that I can offer as a coach because I know how coaches think. So, I can help her maybe look at the bigger picture. But that isn't the case on the sideline. So, don't get sucked into that, I think, is part of it too. It's very easy to, because if the parent next to you is saying something that you agree with, you're like, yeah, the coach should do that. Or, yeah, maybe she wouldn't fail if she was in her favorite position, but she's never played that position before. And stop that and just be the supportive parent. But I think it goes back to what I said earlier is maybe ask your daughter or son if you have a son that plays the sport as well. What do they want? What does support look like to you? Because it isn't about you, even though sometimes we make it, and I have before, and I really regret that. But it's really hard to not get caught up in the moment. But what does support look like for your kid, right? I always just simply tell her after every game, I'm really proud of you, and I love you, and I love watching you play because she has great games. She has good games and she has bad games. She's plays defense. She's allowed scores or goals to be scored, but she's also made some unbelievable plays at the same time. So, and that's kind of what we decompress if she wants to after the game. I don't talk to her about it after the game either. not from the perspective that I don't know the game. I've watched enough to learn, but she doesn't want my feedback on performance. And it really doesn't have anything to do with the fact that I don't know the game as much. But if she doesn't want to talk about it, we don't talk about it. If she does, we do. And that's where I leave it. But her performance, her value and her worth is not her performance. It's not based on her performance. And I think that that shift in my brain has really helped me look at it from a different lens.
Yes. And it does, it takes time. Like with everything, mental performance, even for us as the adults, it takes time. But like the more you like purposefully and like very strategically work on this for yourself, it's going to pay off. Because you see it on social media, coaches, especially on Twitter, where it's like two sentences of like, this is what you're doing wrong, which drives me bonkers. But here are some of the things that I see, and this is why it's a turnoff for coaches and can your behavior can literally get your kids scratched off of lists.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's a bit unfair if I'm being honest, like really like this one moment from their parent, you're crossing them off. But then on the other hand, from the college coach's perspective, we like the physical stuff is the easiest to see, like got the talent. Now I need to know if you're gonna fit with our culture. And then really what they're looking for is, are you going to disrupt what we've built?
Mm.
Like that's it's unfortunate that we look for the negatives, but that's really how we filter through first. So the things that happen between parents and their players especially show us what's truly going on in their heads. So if I see a parent like yelling at their kid from the stands, like, get your act together, like, figure it out. Like, I've seen it from dads and moms. That was dad voice. But both do it where you're like berating your kid. It's not just like, oh, you shouldn't do that, parent. I don't want you. It is a bit obnoxious to hear when you're on the field as the coach because it's distracting, but more so, that's telling me that your kid can't correct on their own or if they're hearing you, they're going to shut down, which means now I can't rely on them. So in the middle of a game, I know they've failed, but I know they can bounce back if they have the right mentality, the right support. But when you do that, I'm like, not looking good. Your odds of being able to be resilient and bounce back, which is the game, they just drop significantly. And even after games, what Alicia is saying about your conversations with kids, like you can tell in the kids' body language if they're feeling that heaviness, that pressure. If your conversation that's starting as helping her, like so many former athletes as parents are like trying to help, like, hey, this is what I saw. This is what you can do better. Try this next time. But in the kid's head, all they're hearing is, you messed up. This is how you're bad. This is how you aren't going to be good at this, blah, 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 blah. Because of the timing. Your info is probably great, but when you do that, I, as a college coach, am seeing, oh no, now she's going to shut down in our post game chats, and I'm going to have to work really hard to boost her back up because I'm seeing that it's weighing so heavily on her. It's not a judgment of the parent or the kid, it's just a judgment of the behaviors and the like chain of events that I can foresee happening. So that is why it's so important that you parents pay attention to what you're doing as well so that we can give our kids all the tools possible to succeed because that's what we're really looking for on the sidelines. I just rambled for forever. Alicia, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I think it goes back to what you said about culture, right? When you, as a college coach who you're bringing in, you don't want your college culture or your culture of your team or program to be disrupted. So, what is being said on the ride home and what is being said at the dinner table about the coach, about the plays, about the positioning? Because if that's all negative, that constantly is being put in that player's head, do you think they're going to be an outstanding leader or one that can be resilient? Or are they going to become a player that blames everybody else? And as a college coach, is that someone that you want in your culture? No way. So I think that that's too part of it too. And when you really, as the adult in the room, have to really check yourself and making sure you're not complaining too much, blaming other people, and just support them in a way and support the coach and the teammates in the program is a really good way to make sure that your child is going to be a good leader and a good fit for the next level.
Hmm. And for the parents who are like, but yeah, there's some things to complain about. Like, totally fair. But like,
Yes.
you and I were just talking about things where, like, hey, there's going to be things that you are not happy about with the coach's decisions. What is the best advice you have for parents to A, process that? Because yes, there are some serious concerns sometimes that need to be addressed. But
Of
how do you
course.
like work through it in a way that teaches your players not to just complain and feel like you have no shot at fixing it, into taking some like empowerment back and like, "Oh, I can do something about this." How can you make that switch?
I think if you can sit down and have a conversation about the bigger picture, right?
Mm,
Sometimes I'll try to think of an example for soccer. Like I said, since I don't know the game very well, I think it's just the same as not being an experienced coach or, or whatever, or coaching or having ever coached. You're just the parent, right? Well, can you as the adult take a step back and say, okay, maybe you're not playing the position you're the best at, or maybe you're playing a new position, but let's take a step back and look at the whole team as a whole. Maybe Jennifer is a better defender in the middle, and the coach thinks highly of you, so you can go on the outside because you're more skilled in that area. Or, you can come up with a lot of different things to, or even maybe have that conversation without telling them everything, just ask them. Think about the whole team in general. If this person is here and, Mel is here and Alicia is here, overall, is the team a little stronger? I think about that too for softball. We can all talk about that since it's what we all know. But defense, I'm a very defensive minded coach. And you, as an experienced coach as well, know some combinations defensively work better than others. So if I have a player who is a strong defender and not the strongest offensive player, that player in my brain will start ahead of somebody who is the opposite. That's how I think. That's my strategy. That's the way I've always been. Now, I have an assistant coach who's the opposite. If they're a really good hitter, but aren't the strongest in the field, so we always talk about that. And that okay, great. I love the different opinions, but then we can think about the opponent, right? Maybe we need a stronger offense. And we can maybe this particular pitcher that we have, that their offense has a bunch of righties and they're going to pull it. So we can, put a little bit of a weaker defender in right field. I could go on for examples, but I think if you as the parent and the adult can just take a step back and try to help digest the bigger picture, that's also making that switch in their brain that this isn't just about me, because it isn't. And I know that I understand from a parent's perspective because I've been there what it means to be a parent who only looks at your child. I get it. But it's a team sport and the coach has to take the team into consideration. And they may also have a long game plan that you're not aware of, right? It's not sometimes just about that game. So I think if you can have those conversations, if your player is really upset about something, even you as a parent, and you start to talk about it instead of complaining and pointing fingers, I think that's a really good way for you to have that conversation with your kid to help them be prepared for not only the next level, but when they get their job and work for a company, it's not about you.
hmm. Which, like, credit to my girls and their parents because like they have these, you can tell they're having these conversations. Because when they talk to me about playing time, really, it's not the like, "Ah, I just want to play more." It's, hey, coach. They always start with like, what can I do? And then they're talking through like, all right, so defensively, I need to work on this. Yeah. Offensively, work on that. Got it. And then they can start to see once they've zoomed out to the perspective of, okay, this is not just me doing something wrong or me not being good enough. This is a bigger picture that I can't and don't want to see. But okay, now focus back on me to help my team. Okay, what can I do, coach, to contribute? That's the word. What can I do to
Yeah,
contribute, even if it's from the bench?
right.
Um, and when you shift that, it takes the stress off your parents as well. Like to know that your kid's getting something out of it now. because now they're being productive. Now they're out there with intention, regardless if they're stepping up to the plate. Like that makes you feel like, okay, yes, it's back to being worth it again. So, final thoughts. Parents, I want you to leave this conversation not feeling like we've just like shaken a stick at you. And we need to take accountability for how we act so that we can show our girls how to act. So, Alicia, top tip to leave our parents with how to lead their players so that they become the girls that get the offers and every coach is looking at.
Well, on game day, be their supporter, but find out what they need and what they want you to do or don't want you to do. I think that's kind of important too. But encourage and talk about the leadership pieces during the game that you saw. Like, hey, maybe they did go 0 for 3. But hey, that was a great job. I noticed that when, you came back in the dugout you high-fived a couple teammates, I saw you take a deep breath and I saw you walk out there and play shortstop and cheer on your pitcher. That was an awesome sign of kind of bouncing back and leadership that you showed. And I think that's when you can focus on your kid, right? And I think you should point out those moments that aren't related directly to performance. I think it's really, really important. And three, if they don't want to talk about it after, that's fine. But have that conversation with them before, knowing what they need and want at the time. And you're not always going to be right. Sometimes they're gonna want to talk about it and you didn't say anything and vice versa. But I think being able to have that conversation ahead of time of what they need when, and if they do want to talk about it, if they start complaining, it's okay to let them complain to maybe get that off their chest. But if you're able to kind of help redirect to bigger picture, I think that's very helpful.
Ah, so good. And this is my future, folks, so I'm taking notes as well. But if you want more support about on all these topics, we've got an exciting boot camp coming up, the Softball Parents Recruiting Boot Camp. So we're going to talk about all these things, give you an actual strategy to follow, the tools for you as a parent to be able to lead them through this process, and then also talking about, all right, now what can I focus on to make sure she's doing the things she needs to out there to show herself off and not just get the exposure, but get the attention and the like interest that you're going for. So if you're interested in that, I don't know where to send them.
You can edit. You can edit the video.
Yeah. So hope to see you there, and we'll see you next episode.